It was a wine tasting with a distinctive Hunter Valley flavour. All the wines on display were produced in the local area and deemed worthy of either a benchmark label, which denotes a wine of significant potential, or the classic seal, which is only awarded to wines that have reached a pinnacle of excellence.
When a wine goes in for selection, it must be at silver medal level for the National Wine Show circuit in Australia. And what we have then for the judging process, if there is one dissenter on that judging panel, the wine is dismissed.
The idea is to make quality wines easy to recognise, even for the non-expert.
It's a scheme that when the consumer goes out there to the retail shop or that restaurant and sees a wine either with a classic or benchmark sticker, that is their guarantee of quality.
The tasters couldn't agree more.
It's very nice. Lovely.
The strike leaves the city minus many essential services. Garbage trucks lie idle at the council's Waratah depot, and it looks unlikely that rubbish will now be collected until next week. Shortland Tip is open, but the grader remains inactive, the hot weather posing a potential health hazard here and on the streets. The strike could also pose a hazard on the beaches, which are now minus inspectors and lifesavers. Council pools remain open, but with altered hours. Roadworks throughout the city have ground to a halt, pending the return to work of the Federated Municipal Employees Wages Division. The dispute is over the suspension of a three-man tree-lopping gang who were found during working hours in this club on Tuesday. The union says because they had to clear up branches lopped from this tree, they began their meal break late and so extended their lunchtime to save claiming penalty rates. The union is fighting to have the gang reinstated with no penalties. The dispute is due to go before the Arbitration Commission in Sydney tomorrow.
The test will be a monumental occasion for local boy Mark Sargent, lucky to survive this incident with just a stint in the sin bin, but now in the test side as a reserve.
I didn't really expect me to be named in the test squad this early, sort of thing. I've been happy with the way I was going. I was a little bit disappointed with my game last night, obviously, getting sent to the sin bin and then losing a bit of possession later in the game, but, I was over the moon, obviously.
His inclusion is a reward for some consistent showings in the so-called B team. He seems certain to get a run at some stage as the Aussies try to keep the Test series alive. But just days before the biggest game of his life, Sarge hasn't forgotten about his mates back home in Newcastle.
Say good day to the boys. They're training already, and I'll do my best on Saturday if I get a run.
Back home, North Sydney have again taken a gamble on Scott Wilson after returning positive drug tests earlier in the year. Wilson has been signed up for 1 year and has agreed to submit to a drug test at least twice a week.
Who better to help celebrate a quarter of a century of Tocal Agricultural College than self-confessed man on the land, Governor Rear Admiral Peter Sinclair. The Governor breeds Pole Hereford cattle at Tea Gardens, but he's still booked in for some home study courses at Tocal.
I'm enrolled for 2 courses. The ones that don't require examinations at the end of them.
The Governor unveiled a plaque and sealed an official time capsule to mark the first 25 years. In that period, Tocal has had some 2,000 full-time pupils, all of whom have moved straight back into the workforce. Each of last year's class of 130 students received at least 2 job offers. The Governor viewed the changing face of agriculture and gave his official seal of approval that Tocal should keep moving with the times. Conditions were ideal for contest wave skiing with clear skies and a clean 1 metre swell. While the spectators directed the action from the shore, the unseeded wave skiers gave a fine performance in the water. Like surfboard competitions, the wave skiers are judged on a series of manoeuvres in a 20-minute heat. The Newcastle competition is the final round of the New South Wales Grand Prix circuit, and placings for the state crown are up for grabs.
It's very competitive and these guys will be going for everything.
The top 8 seeds in Australia enter the competition tomorrow, including World Cup holder Rhys Duncan. Finals action begins at 2 o'clock.
What does that get us?
Indigestion.
1,000 hockey fans turned out to see the Newcastle International Centre's first match and Newcastle's first test match. It was billed as a grudge game, Australia looking for revenge for the loss in Seoul. Laden with thousands of litres of water, the centre's AstroTurf played brilliantly for the Aussies, and just 3 minutes into play, winger Dean sent a clever pass to Hager, who put the ball into the back of the net. Great Britain rallied their attack and equalised soon after, with Thompson scoring. Just before half-time, Victorian David Waynesborough sent a pass to Dean, and it was 2-1. The second half was a goal spree for the Aussies. From a penalty corner, Stacey took it to 3-1. It was 4-1 2 minutes later with Hager's second goal. Great Britain tried to get back into the game with this penalty, but Newcastle's test star goalkeeper Stuart Deering was too good. Striker Davies hit back with another goal, and a power shot from Darren Bannerman sealed the Reds' fate. The final score, Australia 6, Great Britain 1. The two sides fly to Brisbane tonight for the second test tomorrow.
Just 8 days ago, Merewether surfers were crowned Australian Teams champions. They won the title by producing the goods in some of the smallest waves imaginable. Days later, they arrived at Western Australia's Margaret River to be confronted by this huge, life-threatening surf. Plenty of big names took a battering in more ways than one. Former world champion Barton Lynch was one of the few to master the treacherous conditions. Most of the others came from Merewether. When the swell settled down to a perfect 2 metres on the final day, it was Simon Law who matched Lynch wave for wave in a gripping semi-final. Law used a critical backhand attack to rack up big points, but Lynch had the forehand advantage, and some awesome tube rides gave him the heat by just 2.5 points. In the next semi, Nicky Wood went berserk in the powerful waves, pulling off the seemingly impossible time and time again. Unfortunately, it was tube riding the judges were looking for, and American Jeff Booth got the nod. He was beaten by Lynch in the final, but when Surfest comes to town in less than a fortnight, it's the Newcastle boys who'll have the world's best looking over their shoulders. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
And this is where it all began, the burnt-out home of Gary Holden. For reasons which still aren't clear, he was shot by his next-door neighbour, David Gray, and his house set alight.
As far as I've heard, Dave Gray, he was at his house. Gary Holden's children came over to console him about his mother dying. He apparently shot the children, shot Gary Holden, and set the house on fire.
Gray, his face blackened and wearing a balaclava, then went on a shooting spree with automatic and semi-automatic weapons. He fired indiscriminately around the township, killing 11 people and wounding 2 others.
Numbers may have been down, but the quality was up in the second stage of the Hunter Valley Karate Championships at the Newcastle Sports Entertainment Centre. Demonstrations were part of the day's activity, with lessons, some painful, in self-defence, showing how to protect yourself in dangerous situations. And others that demonstrated techniques gained from years of concentrated effort and jolly hard work. One of the major components of the competitive side of the championships is the Hyung or pattern, a series of design moves to show poise, agility, balance, strength and rhythm. And after a couple of heats and semi-finals from 7 black belts, it came down to Mario Majali and Phuk Chi Tam. Both had individual styles, but the judges settled on Tam for his overall presentation. To the beach and the surf was just a little strong for the competitors in the Cooks Hill Surf Life Saving Club's Junior Carnival, and events were confined to the beach. Organisers are hopeful that from a series of carnivals on Newcastle sands that a strong team will be selected to represent the area in many of the leading state and national carnivals that will take place in the coming months. And last night at the Newcastle Motordrome, the 15th annual Coca-Cola Classic was held, and it was a win for Gunnedar's Alan Baker. In an incident-packed event, Baker driving a Pontiac Firebird outstayed the red-hot field to record a fine win from John Pine and Stu Robinson. Despite their tender age, the cadets can handle any conditions, and in the much better surf today, the final was a beauty. Adam Player from Redhead looked out of sorts with 2 early rides and came off in a big way. If you made a mistake trying for a bit too much too soon, the surf made you pay, but Player picked himself up to record a fine second place in the final. But the day belonged to Dawkins from the Bay. His wave selection was excellent, and riding the early sections of the waves to enable him to link with a shore break, Dawkins built up enough points and he collected the $500 on offer for the win. The other major event of the day was round 5 in the semi-finals of the Pacific Dreams Pro Junior. Number 1 seed Brazilian Flavio Padarats blitzed his round 5 opponents to move into the semis, as did Merryweather's Nicky Wood, showing that his Margaret River form hasn't deteriorated. In the first semi-final, North Narrabene's Justin Cook started well to throw down the gauntlet to Padarats, Mark Bannister and David Davidson. Competitors were having some difficulty in the foam, especially Padarats, who had the occasional wipeout in the first couple of rides, and he wasn't having a lot of luck with selection. Mona Vale's Bannister, however, was doing a fine job, and the Australian Junior Champion did enough to impress the judges, and he moved through to next Sunday's Pro Junior final, along with the somewhat lucky Padarats. Many experts mused that the second semi-final would see Nicky Wood and Matt Hoy outclass Craig Cornish and Sam Schell. And in any sport, there are those days you would like to forget, and Hoy had one of those. It took 6.5 minutes for him to catch his first wave, and disaster. As soon as he was up, he was down again. Second ride, same result, and from there on, Matt Hoy was never in the hunt. Sam Schell from the Central Coast battled hard, but from the brief good wave, he was always behind the others. Craig Cornish from Byron Bay surfed well, and he won his way through to the final, displaying nice manoeuvres and the rare wipeout. But the outstanding surfer in the semi-final too was Wood, whose experience in the world circuit came to the fore, and with cutbacks and re-entries flowing from his flashing feet, firmly stamped himself as the one to beat in the final of the Pacific Dreams Pro Junior.
Garbage bin, mate, so just...
Robert Cruikshank and Doug Greer of Nelson Bay and Brian MacArthur of Sydney were forced to abandon their fishing vessel, the Shona Bee, last night after it started taking in water about 200 kilometres off the coast. An EPIRB signal from the RAF was picked up at 9 o'clock last night by a passing airline jumbo, and a search of the area this morning by a Navy Seacat helicopter located the men shortly after 5:30. Although tired and weary, they were unhurt. Thankful to be safe and well on dry land, the men are at a loss as to what happened.
Well, the boat was sinking that quick. All we had time was get a life raft on, jackets on and get our hand flares and shoot a couple off.
Was it pretty rough out there, the seas?
We'll put it this way, any rougher and we wouldn't have been out there. We were coming back in because it was getting rough.
It was back to business for most. A weekend workout against teams from Queensland, the ACT and Sydney paid off with a good haul of medals in a variety of sports. The Hunter region blitzed the competition in swimming and also took first place in the women's individual biathlon thanks to Hamilton's Kathy Coyle. Teams also put in strong showings in 10-pin bowling, pistol shooting, volleyball and track and field. 74 competitors from the area won 43 medals, with Kevin Slattery of Cooranbong being responsible for 10 gold and 5 silver in swimming and canoeing. He wasn't at this informal gathering. He's probably already in training for next year's games.
When it's opened in 1993, the bypass will have taken 5 years and more than $30 million to complete.
Newcastle Bypass, which will be able to carry traffic around the busy areas of Newcastle and also link in with the Link Road, joining the F3 freeway with the Port of Newcastle.
The project is being undertaken in 3 sections. The largest and most advanced is between Rankin Drive near Newcastle University and Sandgate Road close to the Shortland Wetland Centre. Work on that section is half completed and more than 8,000 native trees are being planted to provide a wildlife corridor backing onto the wetlands. This is a sensitive environmental area and the RTA has taken special measures by installing this silt trap to ensure erosion from the works is controlled. Further south, the rock on either side of the road is soft and crumbly, necessitating specially designed reinforcing.
And we're using this rather unique system of bolting it all together to ensure the safety of people travelling on this road when it's completed.
These concrete soldier beams are bolted into the rock by 11-metre-long steel anchors. According to engineers, if the rock face was to collapse, the main water pipe to the western side of the lake would crack and flood the area. At the southern end, preliminary excavation is still underway. Once work on the Janet Street Bridge is completed, traffic will be rerouted to enable earthworks to begin on the stretch from Newcastle Road to the university. In the future, the dual carriageway will join the Charlestown Road near Rankin Park Hospital and to the north with the Pacific Highway bypassing Sandgate Road.
It's the second blow to the Albion Hotel in less than a year. Earthquake repairs are barely underway. Now fire has swept through the building. Once again, it was the job of insurance assessors to document the extent of the damage. It's believed the blaze was ignited by a cigarette butt in rubbish collected by cleaners. Curtains caught alight and the bar was quickly engulfed in billowing smoke. The alarm was raised around 4 a.m. by a family living above the premises.
The fire brigade people told us that another couple of minutes and would have been right up through the roof.
The intense heat generated by the blaze extensively damaged the building. Hotel staff now face a daunting clean-up job before the Albion resumes normal trading.
This was the home of the Newcastle Trades Hall Council prior to December's earthquake. Trades Hall and Federation House were both demolished to make way for the new Workers' Club to be built on the site. The entire operation has been squeezed into this small building in Union Street, a situation which is causing its own headaches for the union movement.
It's small, it's cramped, we don't have the meeting rooms, so all those types of things that were at our fingertips previously we don't have, and yeah, it's pretty tough.
The council says it will suffer an income loss of $60,000 a year and needs supplementary funds to survive the next 2 years. That's how long it'll take to build its new premises, which will be incorporated in the planned Workers' Club complex. Some companies, like BHP, have agreed to organise payroll deductions if workers agree. But the national appeal has been favoured over a formal levy on workers.
Well, levies aren't terribly popular things. We'd rather go out and appeal to them on the basis it's a conscious contribution.
The catch was the first of its type for the year and marks the start of the shark season. Ray Holbert, who's held the state fisheries meshing contract for the past 8 years, says tiger sharks are unpredictable and dangerous.
Oh yeah, get a fair few of them. I think they're one of the worst sharks on the beaches. They're real scavengers, eat anything.
During the spring, Ray and his crew catch an average of 2 big sharks a month off the city's beaches. In summer, it's 2 a week as they follow school fish into our waters. A large bronze whaler was netted off Stockton last Saturday. Ray's crew are keen surfers, but have learned a healthy respect for creatures like this one.
I won't be going out for a week, probably.
Would you have any advice for the blokes that are out there surfing?
Just to take care, watch yourself, make sure there's other people surfing where you're surfing, don't go in remote areas. And if you do all that, you should be pretty safe.
After a disastrous day in the water for the locals yesterday, Merryweather's Nicky Wood has got up this morning to win his round 2 heat over Norah Head's Glen Winton. Conditions are a little better today, with a clean 1 metre swell giving competitors ample opportunity to turn on some strong surfing. Generally, all the top seeds have won their heats so far today, among them Barton Lynch, Tom Carroll and Robbie Bain.